Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode in my Ignite Your Brilliance series. This week, we are talking about how we turn pain into power, all the ways that we can overcome adversity with resilience. So, listen, on this podcast and in my business, I highlight all of these ways that we can start again later in life. And, this motto is one that I fully stand behind, that it's never too late, you're never too old to do whatever it is that has been calling to you, right? So, whatever this big, grandiose idea that you have, this dream for the future, there is no reason for you to wait any longer before you get started. So, listen, these start again moments. I'm your resident start again expert. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Shaunna Lee, and I have created this business as a way to help people kind of jumpstart this new ambition. So we write books together, we start podcasts, we start businesses. We sometimes just find out how to put our lives back together after, significant loss. These painful experiences that we have all encountered, they all share something in common, which is they are painful. They are usually coming after a significant loss of some sort. So, a lot of my clients will come to me after a divorce, after they've lost their job, after they send their kids to college. Any one of these experiences can present to us a painful experience of loss. And the thing about the empty nester example is that, you know, the thing about most of these is that it tends to be an unexpected loss. And even with the empty nesters, it's not that they didn't expect that their kids would move off and go to college. It's that the loss they feel is so unexpected. The the grieving of their day-to-day life and how that changes when you send a kid off to college and you're not responsible for the everyday in and out of, did they get home on time? Are they doing what they're supposed to in the way of homework and classwork? And are they getting to class on time? Are they feeding themselves? All of these things that we manage on a regular basis when we are parenting full time kind of goes out the window and the whole dynamic changes. And there is a sense of loss. And it it is even unexpected at times. So after any one of these situations, this is when my start again expertise really comes into play because it allows you to look at these experiences, look at these situations, usually unexpected situations, where you are faced with a, oh my God, what now moment? What the heck do I do now? Whether you are reeling from an unexpected divorce or you have found yourself unemployed after working at the same company or in the same industry for a couple decades, all of these situations have this what the fuck, now what theme to them, right? That is where I have the ability to help people kind of navigate that with a little more grace and ease than, some of us, me, have done. But one of my favorite visualizations, examples of how we turn pain into power is actually from a tattoo that I have. So after my third divorce, I got an arrow tattoo in the middle of my back. Now let me tell you, if you may or may not be a fan of tattoos, it's fine. What I will tell you is if you are interested in getting a tattoo, I would highly recommend putting it in a place where you can see it because I never see the one on my back and I sort of forget it's there. However, when people ask me, it gives me the opportunity to kind of describe why I got this particular tattoo. So I have been divorced 3 times, as we know. And after the third divorce, I really connected with this idea of an arrow. And how does an arrow shoot straight and far? It needs resistance, it needs to be pulled back. And so for me, this arrow became the representation of these 3 experiences of loss of a marriage being kind of the resistance that pulled me back so that I could shoot forward and propel me into the future where I was going, straight shot, fast. And so it this arrow on my back became the symbol of Yeah. There was some resistance. There's been some painful experiences in my life, but that's what I'm using to create the power to move me forward. And so it's a great illustration of what we're talking about today. And how do we do that? How do we turn this painful situation into the power that propels us forward? So, you know, pain and adversity, there's no lack of examples of what that looks like, and any one of us could give you a handful of ways that we have overcome adversity. And I will say the majority of people do this quite well and can kind of navigate these situations, whether they are unexpected or not, whether they know how to move forward or not. Everybody sort of just figures it out, or you struggle along until one day you're like, wow, I got through that, that's great. Um, but what we're talking about here today is being more intentional about it. And how do you actually take that situation and with intent and on purpose use that to power your next move? And that's what we're talking about today. So before we talk about how we shift to using that to our advantage, it's helpful to actually sit and look at what are the ramifications to not doing that. So we all know how pain can affect our bodies physically. And maybe you do or do not know this, but um, there's a theory of thought that says any emotional trauma to any extent, any emotions that we store in our body that we are trying to numb or avoid or just kind of shove down and not deal with, those emotions don't go anywhere. If we don't give them an outlet to leave our bodies, that is what becomes our physical ailments and diseases and all the ways that our body screams at us to pay attention. And that always has an emotional basis to it. So I would challenge any one of you to look at a physical pain that you have today and then do a quick Google search. What is the emotional meaning behind back pain or shoulder pain or knee pain? And look up what you get back and tell me if that does or does not resonate with you. I've spent many years researching this and finding how true this is for me and my clients, that typically it can be one of the very first ways that we start to work together is talk to me about your body. What's happening in your body? Because this impact of emotional pain on our body is really prevalent. It's super evident if you actually take the time to start looking at it. So we obviously know if someone is depressed for a long period of time, that has physical ramifications. If you are dealing with high stress situations for an extended period of time, that has physical ramifications to your body. And so, um, all the ways that we can kind of look at these painful situations, look at the emotions that are underlying them, and find healthy ways to release those emotions and let them go, allows us to really take care of our bodies in the most important way. And so we can see the impact of pain when it goes unaddressed. But how do we actually shift that into resilience? So I will tell you that a lot of it is the way you look at a situation. And so, in order to build resilience, you want to be able to look at a situation and see proactively how it might be benefiting you. And this is not easy. This takes practice and it takes time. But when you have the ability to look at past situations, it's really most helpful if you're not in the muck of it right now. If you can look back at the most trying periods of time in your life, you can look back and see that there was a lesson learned or there was some value that you obtained from this situation. And the more that we can do that, the more that we are training our brains to kind of look at it in the current situation and to be able to know in advance of shitty things happening that it will always be working somehow in our favor. And here's one of the things that I try to tell myself and remind myself in the midst of difficult situations, and that is this is happening for me, not to me. And the more that I can shift to seeing that as a possibility, the quicker I'm going to move through the situation. And when we can look at a situation that is painful and difficult, and we can look at it and say, all right, what am I getting out of this experience? I'm going to give you a really common example. and it's very small. So let's say you've got an extremely busy week at work. You've got a big project or a big presentation. Something's happening that has been culminating to this whole experience. And that's the day that you get sick. Every time this happens, or it could be that your kid gets sick and you're pulled out and can't be at this event or this important meeting. Anytime this has happened to me or people in my life, and I can kind of look at the situation, almost always when it is me who's gotten sick, it is because here's the thing. If I ask myself, what am I getting out of this experience, being sick when it's super inconvenient? What I'm getting is the ability to rest. And why is this happening for me? Usually because I haven't been resting and I haven't been taking care of myself. Those times when I don't make rest and relaxation a priority, and I'm trying to go, do, and push the envelope, those are the times when I get sick. And it's because I actually needed rest. So the more that we can kind of proactively look at these situations as happening for us and not to us, can help us to build that resilience. But I'll tell you, the biggest way that we are able to kind of turn that into power that fuels us moving forward is in the way that we look at the situation. So primarily shifting your mindset around how you're looking at the situation is step one. So what I like to tell people is maybe you can't look at this situation. Let's say you're in the midst of an ugly divorce. It's hard to look at the situation when you're in the midst of that and say, wow, how is this happening for me? What am I getting out of this situation? Because sometimes it's just that we need to shift through the situation in order to see the benefit. But here's one of the things that I always recommend. Maybe you can't get quite there yet, but what you could do is allow yourself to be willing to see the situation differently. And sometimes that is all that it takes. One of my favorite mantras is to say, I am willing to see this differently. What it tells me is I'm going to take the pressure off of thinking that this situation is the way that I have defined it in my mind. And I can just say, you know what? I'm willing to see this differently. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it means, but I'm willing to see it differently. That alone can shift your mindset just by saying you're willing to see it differently. So from there, then you could shift into what am I getting? What's the value? What is the benefit to me? All the good, juicy stuff that would come from these not so great experiences. And then secondarily, after we move through the mindset shift, after we are willing to look at things differently, maybe we're seeing the benefit, whatever the case may be. The second step, and really, really important, is to be able to build a support system. So for those of you who are wanting to launch a new business, launch a podcast, write a book, these are huge undertakings. And if you are working full time and this is going to be a side gig, you're going to need some help. So being able to build that support system is really important. And that can look all sorts of different ways. First and foremost, you have to be willing to ask for help. So where we all got this notion that we are supposed to do it all on our own or be this, especially as single moms, you know, end all be all and I can do it. And every time I hear myself or another single mom think, I got to do this all on my own. It reminds me of any one of my children when they were 2 year olds, like stomping their feet saying, me do it, I do it. It's kind of the same mentality, right? But why? Why do we think we have to do it all on our own? We do not. We absolutely do not. We all need help. We need to be able to ask for help, even when it makes us feel vulnerable to say, I don't got this, I need some help. It can be such a power move for you to say, okay, I need some help, because it allows you then to team up with other people and move forward even faster. So, I love to tell this story, and I told it in my book. If you've read my book, then you have already heard this, but I'm going to tell it again. This concept of elephants, when a mother elephant is giving birth, and how all of the other female elephants will kind of surround her in this moment of need, right? She's vulnerable when she's in the midst of giving birth and can't protect herself. So they all form this protection circle around her so that they're keeping her safe from predators. And then the moment that the baby is born, they start trumpeting and they're celebrating, and they're celebrating their sister elephant's win with the birth. And it reminds me of how we have the ability to come together in our small groups, our close knit circle, and how it's okay for you to be the elephant in the middle sometimes, for you to say, I don't got this, I need some help, and to be able to let your friends circle around you, protect you when you're vulnerable. This is super pertinent when you are going through a divorce. And then when you come out of this situation, when you launch the new business, when you launch your podcast or write your book or just figure out how to pay your bills on your own, whatever the celebratory moment is, your circle gets to celebrate with you. And the most beautiful part of this whole situation is that you're not always the one in the middle. We take turns. And when we are feeling strong and powerful and have the ability to protect our friends, that's when we can show up for them in that way. And we all get to take turns. And we're not always the one in the middle. So you're not always going to be the one who needs help. But when you do, it's important to ask for it, even if it makes you feel vulnerable. So building that support system is really important. And then when we've shifted from, okay, let's wrap our mind around a new way of thinking and let's actually tell people that we need some help. And then here's the third step. You need to be able to actually take care of yourself. So in that example where I was telling you this is when we get sick, is when we're not doing this, pause and rest is so important. There is a concept, this misnomer, that if we are taking a down day to, just read or watch TV. I spent all of Saturday watching football with my son. I don't even like football, but it was a way for us to bond, as long as I didn't talk too much, and just spend a day watching 3 football games. Now, listen, this was a significant amount of time. I had any number of things I could have been doing. But sometimes when we're doing the nothing, we actually are doing something important. I needed rest. I have had an extremely busy few weeks, and I needed the opportunity to just sit and knit and hang out with my kid. So, this idea that you're being lazy or that you're not being productive is quite honestly bullshit. Sometimes what you need to do is to rest. And so, that can be a really helpful way to kind of build your stamina, to refuel your batteries, but also being able to find ways to physically allow those emotions and all of that negative energy to have somewhere to go. We want to be able to move whatever that energy is out of our bodies. So whether it is that you're angry about the situation that you find yourself in, or you're frustrated that you are once again a single mom, whatever the case may be, you want to have a physical way to move that out. And that's where, you know, move yourself to another room, go work out, walk around the block, whatever the case may be, to just generally get that energy moving out is what you want to focus on. And then obviously, you guys know I'm such a fan of meditation and journaling. I find meditation to be a really, first and foremost, it was a way for me to learn how to calm and reset and regulate my nervous system. So being able to move out of survival mode into this energy of thriving. First, I needed to be able to soothe my nervous system, and meditation is really what taught me how to do that. Beyond being able to kind of find my center, find my calm, quiet the noise in my brain, what I really needed to be able to do is use that to propel me forward. And so, this is one of my favorite ways to use meditation, which is to visualize where I'm going. And you guys have heard me talk about this, but the ability to meditate and visualize what this future state looks like, who it is that you're becoming, what it feels like to be her or him, can be done in meditation. And listen, this can be 10 to 15 minutes a day. This is not, hours long humming and chanting, in the dark. It doesn't have to be all that. It can just be a 10-minute practice every morning where you sit and say, okay, what am I going to do today? How am I going to move throughout my day? What does it feel like for me to get a little bit closer to this big goal I have? And meditation can be a great way to do that. Now, journaling, I'm a writer, so I love journaling, but one of the ways that I use this is to really sit with this idea of I'm willing to see things differently. And even if I'm just starting my journaling session by writing those words, sometimes that's all I need to be able to shift into, okay, well, what does that look like? How can I view this situation differently? I'm going to tell you a little example. I had an experience recently where you may or may not know, I am recently certified to be a breathwork facilitator. And in this teacher training that I was attending, one of the activities we did it was super powerful actually, to write a letter to the person that you are having a hard time forgiving. And you write this letter to the person and you say every little thing that they've said, everything that they've done, and what it made you feel. And you just get it all out. So journaling can be a great way to kind of work through this activity. And then here was the magic of this moment. You put that letter aside and then you write a new letter. And the letter is from that person to you, from their perspective, saying all of the things that you wish that they would say to you. And one, it is therapeutic and it's cathartic because it allows you to kind of hear those things that you're hoping to hear. But also, what it does is shift you into what does it look like? What does this situation look like from their perspective? If I were to actually sit in their shoes, what does that look like? Why did they do the things they did? What did they think about the situation? And sometimes this can be all it takes for us to be able to let go of that hurt and set it down and walk away from it. And that is what forgiveness is. And that is always a gift to you and not the other person. Listen, they may not care if you ever forgive them or not, but you should care because you're not carrying that emotional weight of that hurt any longer. And so being able to use journaling as a way to shift your perspective is a really powerful one. So then step 4, this is my favorite. This is my favorite part. This is where we get shit done, right? So it's all good and well to have big dreams. But listen, you got to do something with them. So if you want to be a millionaire, amazing. Mantras out the wazoo if that's what you are here for. But you actually have to take some steps to make that happen. So this is where setting goals and taking action is important. One, you want to be realistic. Let's not set the goal that you're going to, I don't know, publish your book next month if you haven't started writing it yet. Maybe that's not realistic. Maybe it is realistic. Some people have been known to do it, but being able to set what is a realistic goal is helpful because it lets you build that momentum and build some confidence as you are taking action and you're checking some things off. It creates this momentum of where you're going. Sometimes when we lower our expectations, we're able to actually move faster and further. So, for example, if you said at the beginning of the year that you wanted to start a podcast this year, is it realistic that you could have your podcast launched in 30 days? I say yes. Yes, it is. I actually have a program that helps people do that. Now, if you're going to write a book, maybe the 30 days is not realistic, but being able to just set those expectations appropriately is what's important because then it allows you to take baby steps every day towards that goal. So, if, for example, you want to write a book, maybe your goal is that you're going to write every single day without fail, 15 minutes, carve out the time. I tell you, when you set tiny, tiny goals like writing every day, it becomes a habit. It allows you to build some momentum. And here's what always happens. You'll carve out 15 minutes and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I don't have enough time to write a whole book, but I can write 15 minutes a day." So maybe you use 15 minutes a break from work or before you go to bed or during lunch, whatever it is. Find your 15 minutes and here's what will happen. It'll end up stretching because when you're doing this thing that you love, you squeeze out a little bit more time. So then 15 minutes becomes 30, 30 minutes, maybe, one day a week, you've got a full hour that you're actually doing it. But as you are doing this and building the habit, you'll build the momentum. You'll get more and more words down on paper. And then before you know it, you've got your whole book written and you look back and you're like, how the hell did I do that? That's how you do it. Baby steps are better than no steps. What is one small thing that you can do today to get you closer to where you're going? And start small. It doesn't have to be grandiose. There's time for all of that, but some days we just need to have tiny little actionable steps that are realistic so that we can build our confidence, so that we can build our resilience, and we can actually do the damn thing that we've set out to do. So, lastly, I would say when we adopt this concept of learning and growing, and that being the goal out of any one of these adversity situations, when we can say, what did I learn from this experience? And look at it from the perspective of that's the goal, is that I'm going to learn and grow as a human being and I'm going to become better tomorrow than I am today. That whole mindset, that whole concept will be what propels you moving forward. Because how can you come out a better version of yourself tomorrow than you are today? That's the goal. And, if that to you is to be a podcast host, listen, I'm about to launch a new course that is going to be super exciting. But for any of you guys listening to this episode on my podcast or watching this on YouTube, if you will send me a DM on Instagram, I'm simply Shaunna Lee on Instagram, and use the word pod launch, PODLAUNCH, pod launch. I will give you a code for 50% off of my Clarity Call rate for the month of September. Let's book a call and let's talk through your idea, whether it's a book or a podcast or a business, whatever this grandiose idea is for you. I'm going to help you put together a plan to make it happen. You can go off on your own after this and write the book and never speak to me again, or you can maybe need a little more help and I will help you through it. Regardless, let's set a call and let's have a quick little conversation where I give you a little bit of clarity and I give you a plan and you have your marching orders to make it a little easier to go do that thing. So listen, this is what I had to share with you guys today, was this whole idea of turning pain into power. How do we build resilience as we move through these moments of adversity? And how do we use that to propel us forward faster into this next goal that we have seamlessly, with grace and ease and speed? So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you for listening and for being here. I'm super excited about this next program that I'm launching, and I can't wait to hear whatever idea it is that you have mulling around in your brain. So let's get on a quick call. If you want to book a clarity call, I would be so excited to talk to you. And follow me on Instagram, simply Shaunna Lee. Let me know how you found this episode, and I can't wait to talk to you and connect. So thank you guys. Until next time.